Welcome to Pod Save America Live. Tommy Vitor to my left. Vitor.
Been my friend for a decade.
Yeah, we've known each other for 12 years. Priyanka on the ones and twos.
Hey.
We got a cornucopia.
In the Q's and A's. We got a cornucopia of donkeys. It's a metaphor for the debate lost on no one.
Yale said asses.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Interesting.
Horn of asses. Cornucopia of Democrats. Messaging.
Speaking
Priyanka, you want to
messaging.
kick us off?
No. Like, don't you guys have something to tell us about?
Oh, that's right.
This thing is brought to you by
This very stream that you are currently watching. Who's it brought to you by, Tommy?
the Times of New York. The New York Times.
Ever heard of it?
You want to talk about a credential? New York Times. The truth matters, I believe is what they say.
No, it's worth it.
I don't know.
NewYorkTimes.com.
It's the best
It's where you get all the news.
site for all the news.
Yeah.
Get your sports. Yeah, they have a good cooking section.
Yeah, cooking section, Hillary's email section, a couple good sections. Huge admirers and fans of the New York Times, and thank you for sponsoring
To them.
our debate coverage
We love the Times.
and this very stream.
We also love The Daily with Mikey Barbs.
We love Mikey Barbs.
Literally listen every day. So
love the
you should
Daily.
too.
He tweeted us yesterday.
He
He
did.
did.
He did.
He's a fan.
He tweeted us while we were talking about the debate, which is what we're going to do now.
Great.
Cool?
Great.
Seamless.
Good transition.
Let's do it.
Amazing.
All right, so last night we heard from Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Pete Buttigieg, Beto O'Rourke, Marianne Williamson, Amy Klobuchar, John Hickenlooper, Tim Ryan, John Delaney, and Steve Bullock for 2.5 hours. Really fucking long time.
So long.
Two of the field's highest polling and most progressive candidates, Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, were there, and based on punditry previews, you might have expected them to be going at it the entire time, except it ended up looking like they spent most of their time fielding attacks from more moderate candidates like Delaney, Bullock, Hickenlooper, and Klobuchar, prompted in part by CNN's questions. The debate covered a lot of substantive ground, though. Candidates talked about healthcare, immigration, race and reparations, a bunch more. So let's get into it, shall we? Let's start with an overview. What to you guys stood out among this 2.5 hour long escapade as big standout moments? What were your big takeaways?
Big takeaways.
I would say, I mean, the moment to me that I think was both a dynamic moment in the debate, but also something that captured the larger conversation that took place over the 2.5 centuries that we watched, was the moment where Delaney, I believe it was Delaney, I don't know, one of the moderate men.
Chipmunk cheeks?
Yeah, little Adderall under his nose. You could, just kidding. Just kidding. That one. Came at Bernie and said, you don't know how it works.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Bernie said, I do know how it works. I wrote the damn bill.
That's
And
Tim Ryan.
No one says, it was Tim Ryan?
No, it's Tim Ryan.
No one says I wrote the damn bill like a 75-year-old Brooklyn Jew. I mean, I wrote there was so much throat in it, but it did capture, I think, the dynamic that largely played out over the course of the debate, which was especially around healthcare, a bit on immigration, some of the other issues like trade, was one in which you had Bernie and Elizabeth Warren defending the left position against varyingly successful moderate attacks from people like Delaney, Tim Ryan, John Hickenlooper, Steve Bullock, and others, while then you had Mayor Pete, who I thought was playing a different game and playing it well, the sort of the kind of arguing for making his, I think that is making a less ideological case for the kind of arguments he's been making for his own candidacy.
Yeah. Radical on sort of political reform, moderate on policy, I think is how Dan summarized it last night. A takeaway from me, like, I didn't really buy all those preview stories that Bernie was suddenly going to go after Elizabeth Warren or vice versa. I don't know that that's in their interest, nor, like, I'm not sure on what grounds it would be. I think that a lot of people came at Warren and they came at Bernie, and I don't really think they landed a punch, despite the fact that there are, like, real policy differences that, you know, could cause you considerable problems in a general election that some of the candidates on that stage hold and others do not. But I don't know that the moderate candidates made the case in a way that was beneficial to them. Maybe they got their names out there. Like, look, John Delaney talked too much, in my opinion, given his relative stature in the debate, but he we're talking about him right now. Got his name out there, so that's notable.
Yeah, I mean, I also think the moment where Elizabeth Warren said, "I don't know why you would run for president," to say what you wouldn't fight for and things we shouldn't do. I'm paraphrasing it, but it was really well said, and I think spoke to the strength she had in that debate. To me, I think the candidates at the top of that debate, Pete, Bernie, Warren, they know why they're running for president. They really do. And so when a moderate tries to attack their position, they don't really show weakness in the sense of they don't act as if they are vulnerable to that criticism, because I think it's a criticism they've already thought through and come to a different conclusion around. That doesn't mean they're right? There's, I think, a debate about should Democrats be for a public option that leaves private health care in place, or should we be for Medicare for all? That's a worthy debate. But to me, the places where I think you saw the real tension between, whether it's single payer, actually more on immigration, was when the moderators were pushing them
totally
on those questions.
Yeah, the questions were constructed to be like, Lovett, you said you hate dudes who wear the sweatshirt of the company they worked for previously. Tommy's wearing one right now. Does that offend you? And it's like, what the fuck? I didn't say anything.
Yeah,
they
wanted. Yeah, like that. There was one specific moment where they really tried to make it an argument because Delaney was there. They tried to make it an argument against Delaney, and it's like, I don't need to see Elizabeth Warren take a shot at John Delaney.
Again?
Life has already taken all the shots at John Delaney that it needs to take, to get him to the place where he has spent, $15 million to achieve 0% in the polls. Like, one question where I thought you did see a real difference, right, is on 1325, this immigration law around this question around decriminalizing the border, something that Julian Castro has brought to the fore in a big way, something Mayor Pete and Elizabeth Warren agreed with in the previous debate. I think you saw two different approaches to a question that I think both those candidates, at least you could see in their eyes, felt as though they had embraced an unpopular position. And I think you saw Pete in an uncharacteristically squirrely moment in which he really wanted to not be the kind of politician who changes what he says week to week, while at the same time trying very hard to not say basically the position he took directly. And I think you saw Warren show a little bit more of a facility to dance around that, while still, I think, more full-throatedly embracing her previous position.
Let's talk about the questions really quick. Actually, wait a minute. We have a request from Elijah for the viewers of the stream. Can you please like the video before we get to the next question? Please. He says he is asking and begging.
You see, I have some water here. It's because we're thirsty.
Who you want the people watching?
Yeah.
To like the stream?
Yes. That's it.
So that other people will see it. So the algorithm will...
We're juicing the algo.
We'll grab this video and just show it to people in line at their Chipotle's.
I'm assuming yes.
And their Panera's bread.
He's nodding, so yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but we can get to the next question. Basically along the lines of what you guys were saying about this questioning style. Why is CNN pitting candidates against each other, this person asks. Is there a strategy, or are the moderators just horrible people more interested in ratings than in helping the American people hear from
How do you type that question on that high horse of yours, whoever wrote that? It must be hard. You must have to have one hand on the saddle and one hand on your phone and be worried about falling from your very high horse.
Left-wing enemy of the people charges are there. Look, all three of those moderators are good journalists, good people. We know them personally. It's an unbelievably difficult job. You have 10 people on stage. You have to know all their positions. You have to think of smart questions. You have to move the conversation along. You have to get them to adhere to rules. It's tough. That said, two criticisms. I think there should have been more topics moved to a little more quickly, in my opinion. Maybe it's just a hobby horse, but I wanted to hear us talk about wars we're in and stuff. I think the time restrictions, even though everyone had agreed to them, felt a little weird when you're cutting people off after 15 seconds. I just don't get how that became the rules. But again, not the moderator's fault, right? They're enforcing rules that were predetermined. They did construct questions in a way to try to elicit exchanges. And at times, it can feel like the framing of the question is Republican attack on a Democratic policy. And that is annoying, but it's sort of par for the course. So,
yeah, I do think sometimes people are critical of debate questions when really they are critical of the format and actually critical of Democrats. If there's a question that is framed around, say, a Republican criticism, on whatever issue it may be. There's nothing wrong with asking a question like that and testing the candidates on that question. I obviously would like there to be a range of questions, but it's incumbent upon the candidates to decide how they want to answer a question and whether they take it at face value. You know, a lot of people criticize Chuck Todd for saying, raise your hand, raise your hand. I don't think it's a very good idea to have candidates raise their hand in a debate. I think it's very silly. I think it makes them look silly. I think it is an unfortunate practice that reflects poorly on anyone who participates. But the candidates can then say, hey, you know what, Chuck? I'm not raising my hand. Just a tiny bit more combative. I think you saw Bernie do that a little bit. I think you saw Warren do that a little bit, and I think it was for the most part good. But I know that this was I didn't find myself watching the debate believing that that the moderators were creating problems for the candidates, whatever the questions may have been.
Yeah. I don't raise my hand for like the check at a restaurant. You know what I mean?
No.
Chill out with that stuff. We're not children.
Do you do this?
I definitely have done this.
Now,
Do a wave.
do you believe,
do
do you do
Yeah.
a check mark, or
No.
do some people write the word check in the air?
Oh, come on.
You just do this. You just
Just
make a
a
squiggle.
squiggle.
Yeah, I do like a
Little
squiggle.
Little squiggle.
Come on.
Little swiggle. Little swiggle.
All
Mostly
right.
I get takeout and eat alone at home. Check, please, he said to no one. Seeing how many more comedians in Cars with Coffee are left.
Oh, what's it?
Too specific.
Brutal.
It's a great show. Sorry, Priyanka, you were
All right.
asking.
Do you guys think that Warren and Sanders kind of deliberately avoided one another in favor of broadly highlighting progressive policies last night? Felt like the media initial spin was seeing Sanders versus Warren rather than what we saw.
I don't. I just think like they have a lot of common cause on the issues. I think there's a genuine admiration and respect there. These are two people. I think Bernie moved Democratic politics and was ahead of Democratic politics in the primary in 2016. I think Elizabeth Warren is someone who has been ahead on a lot of these issues too. So so on top of that personal kinship and policy kinship, there's also a political reality, which is they're ideologically aligned, and so are many of their voters. So it doesn't surprise me that the two of them would look left and right and kind of stand back to back, ready to kind of fend off the marauding moderates surrounding their encampment, to paint an image.
Mm-hmm.
I liked that.
I liked it too.
Okay. David is asking, am I crazy or did Marianne
Yes.
Williamson actually have a good night? What do you
Okay.
guys think about what we saw from
I'd like to talk about
Miss
Marianne.
Williamson?
We Marianne, I just watched her on CNN, where they seem to give her all sorts of credit for getting Googled a lot that evening, right, basically. Now, look, she spoke passionately and honestly about our nation's history of, treating African Americans horrifically, from slavery to the Reconstruction era through Jim Crow, right? She's right about that. She made a compelling case for reparations. So setting that answer aside, I thought the rest of her answers, and Lovett and I were talking about this, she documents, that's weird. She diagnoses a problem, which is the Democratic Party sometimes responds to emotional appeals and sort of the visceral gut level Trump attacks with high-minded policy ideas and facts and things. And she's right on a process argument that you can't necessarily beat him that way. We're gonna have to reach people in their hearts and in their guts. But she makes that fair point about process and then pivots to some dumb critique of Democrats as being a bunch of bookie eggheads. And I think that demonstrates that she doesn't really know what she's talking about when it comes to policy, and in fact has written some weird shit about healthcare or disease treatment, or she has got some views that are way out there. I don't think she has any business running for president based on those qualifications, and I don't think we should get sucked in by someone just making some process argument about how to beat Donald Trump. That doesn't do it for me.
Yeah, I agree. It doesn't. And if she wants to be taken seriously, then, she will get the serious attention, which will demand more of her than she's currently had to offer. To Tommy's point, Donald Trump does call upon dark psychic forces in this country. He has wielded them to terrible purpose. And she is also right that we need a candidate who speaks to the opposite of that speaks to our better angels, that calls upon emotions just as strong. But what she says is, we need a candidate who is going to appeal to people in the opposite way Donald Trump has, who understands what Donald Trump will do and understands why we need something else. The next sentence has to be that case, that argument never makes it. It doesn't exist. It just never actually happens. So it's always, we need a candidate who's finally going to do X, and if we don't do X, we're going to lose. Never gives us the X. And I think she deserves credit for making reparations part of the conversation. I am more interested in hearing what candidates with more skin in the game have to say on that topic, because it is easier to take a politically unpalatable position, or at least one that is viewed publicly as a hard political position to take, when the odds of you winning the nomination are very, very remote, versus candidates who are actually taking political risks and believe they are doing so with an eye towards winning the nomination and winning the presidency. So to me, I think the test is not what can one candidate say on a debate stage, but how can that translate into what other candidates are willing to say, willing to push for when they believe that when they're doing a delicate balance of building a coalition and trying to win.
Okay. Can we really quick, before we move on from this topic, can we sort of talk about what's going on online here, this almost like memeification of Marianne Williamson? What do you guys think about that? Is there a danger to that? Do you think it's like fine and funny?
I feel about the sort of memeification, the sort of ironic support of Marianne Williamson the way I do about the ironic support of Mike Gravel. I don't think that politics is funny. I don't think it's a game. I don't think it's a chance to fuck around on the internet and get some yucks and try to stir the pot. I think we're in a deadly serious moment, and people's lives are on the line, and we have a fascist in the White House, and we need to be really serious about how we're going to beat him. And so, I don't have a lot of time for that. And we say this to people that laugh a lot and goof around and don't take ourselves that seriously. But once you decide to run for president, it's a very serious act, and it should be treated accordingly. And I'm not going to ironically support Marianne Williamson memes this time.
Yes.
Or any time.
I agree with all of that. And I also find it a bit patronizing for someone to be on that debate stage and say, I've had enough of all this wonkiness. These are big policy questions, and they're debates we actually need to have if not only do we want to win, but we want to govern. There's a reason Republicans have been unable to repeal Obamacare despite having campaigned on it for a decade. It's because they didn't have the hard policy questions at all along the way and didn't build a mandate and didn't build a coalition around a set of ideas. So if we want to actually address these important questions, we need more than emotion. We need a sincere, emotional, and values-based and principle-based plea, but you need to do more. That's all.
I thought one confusing policy moment in the debate was with Steve Bullock. And this person is asking if you can decipher what he was trying to say about nuclear weapons, because it seemed like even he wasn't quite sure what he was talking about.
Yeah. So, Elizabeth Warren has signed on to a piece of legislation, actually, that says the United States will not use nuclear weapons first. We wouldn't nuke someone as a first strike. The idea behind nuclear weapons is you have it in your arsenal as a deterrent. So if someone were to nuke you, you could completely destroy them. It's supposed to prevent everybody from using nuclear weapons.
Is that like a typical stance, or is that like
Obama didn't go that far.
Okay.
Obama didn't have a no first use policy. I wish he had. The idea is that you can send sort of a moral message to the world that the United States wouldn't do that we wouldn't nuke somebody first under any circumstances. However, we would, of course, reserve the right to respond with a nuclear weapon if we were struck. Bullock, in the course of his answer, kind of misreferred to nuclear nonproliferation, but that's a slip of the tongue that you could kind of understand. But then later, he said, I wouldn't want to signal to North Korea or any of these other despots getting nuclear weapons that we wouldn't respond if you were to nuke Detroit or something like that. And it's just showed that he fundamentally didn't understand the debate in any way. And it was frankly embarrassing for him. And he needs to bone up on foreign policy, because in his conversation with John, he didn't really seem to have a great handle on a couple foreign policy topics either. And that's the area where you have the most autonomy as president.
Yeah. I just think if you're going to, no first strike is, I think, a moral position that Elizabeth Warren has taken. If you want to stand up on that stage and tell her she's wrong about it, you probably should be able to explain why.
Yeah, totally. When I interviewed Ash Carter, who was a former Secretary of Defense on my show, he was opposed to it. And he's like, The reason I'm opposed to it is because no one is going to actually believe us. The Russians, the Chinese, they will never believe that we wouldn't use them first. So it's sort of a meaningless declaration. And, he went down a series of reasons why he opposed it. I'm like, okay, that's fine. Like, that's a reasonable case to make. I don't agree with him. But, like, yeah, know what you're talking about if you're going to pick a fight.
Yeah.
Got it. All right. On the foreign policy topic, this person from Instagram asks, where are the foreign policy questions?
I don't know. It is like...
It's Ben Rhodes.
So funny. Yes, Ben. I mean, look, we have people fighting in wars in Afghanistan, Iraq, a bunch of places. Like, it's a disservice to them not to at least have a slightly more thoughtful, long discussion about the things they're working on. Look, like Lovett was saying earlier, I'm glad we got into like considerable depth on healthcare. It's a big flashpoint in the primary. Maybe they were looking for areas where the candidates disagree, and that's why they didn't get to these areas. I suspect like the Iran deal will come up tonight because Cory Booker is in a different place than others. But like Bernie on Pod Save America said some very interesting things about withholding U.S. support to Israel to change their behavior. That's a huge issue in a primary. I was shocked it didn't come up.
Yeah.
So should these lengthy debates cover every topic, or should we have maybe more, but that cover one or two, do you think?
Ooh, it's a hard question. I want the debates to cover a range of topics. I also recognize that even 20 or 30 minutes when you have 10 people standing on stage makes it hard to have a substantive conversation. I thought the healthcare debate at the top of last night's debate felt it was both long and unsatisfying. That's not on the moderators at all. That is just a reality of what ultimately amounts to a very combative 10-person forum because there's so many people standing side by side. So I don't think that there's a good answer right now. I think my view would be I would like to see after this, once we get into the third and fourth debates, when we have one stage, I would then be interested in more concentrated conversations. And then as the field narrows down, 20 minutes on a topic goes further and further because there's fewer and fewer people talking. So
is number 3 going to be one stage, or we're not sure yet?
Looks like it.
Yeah, I mean,
it's
people are slowly starting to qualify. What do we have, like 6 or 7?
Yeah, we have 6 or 7. I don't. You can we know the ones that are already qualified. Bernie, Biden, Warren, Pete. Beto is qualified, and I think Booker is now qualified.
Yeah, if not, he's very
Kamala Harris?
close.
And Kamala Harris is qualified.
Andrew Yang qualified.
Yang qualified. We may get Klobuchar and maybe one more. I believe Booker's not qualified, but I'm not sure. Maybe just on the donors.
Google it.
What?
Google it. I'm telling them.
I am.
And maybe Marianne Williamson may qualify. That I think has to be a legitimate possibility.
Totally.
So regardless, it does look like we're heading towards 10, a single debate night.
Got it. And then what do you...
Hopefully.
Let's pray. What do you guys think of different mediums? Like if we televised, streamed, podcasted, what do you think? Will these always be, or at least for now, be TV debates, or do you think that they would work in other formats?
Yeah, I think there are radio debates. There's more forum styles where you
which
aren't
are streamed,
yeah, which are more just like interviews, sort of at the same place on the same day. Like television's the medium through which most people are going to view these things, get their news. I mean, I include streaming on that too. So like I think it's fine.
What's your dream setup for a debate? Like no audience, like a round table? What kind of situation do you think would be most effective for getting substantive answers or dialogue or what have you?
I have to say, I don't have as much of a compunction about the current format. I see people complain that the audiences cause people to kind of goose what they say and play to the crowd, and the crowd, changes the feeling of the debate. I see the argument for that. I'm just saying, I saw a debate last night in which there was no obstacle to a very substantive discussion about healthcare. When there were moments in which candidates elided the actual debates at hand, whether it's questions to Delaney around single payer versus questions to Warren about whether taxes would go up for middle class. The reason we may not get a true kind of straight on argument between two candidates on the specific question asked, in which they actually talk about the pros and cons of that one axis of concern, which is kind of what you want to debate. Has nothing to do with the format. It's because politicians are going to want to talk about what they're going to want to talk about and avoid admitting to the flaws when they don't want to talk about the flaws. So I am less concerned about format. That's my view.
We got a question from Brian on YouTube. Wants to know if you guys think the DNC is handling a large number of candidates better than the RNC did previously.
Yeah, I do. I think the undercard, like JV B team debate is just, it sucks. You're stuck there forever, right? But whereas you look at our setup and like a Julian Castro had a good night and it kind of vaulted him to something. Whereas I think if that debate's on at like 3 p.m. Pacific, it's probably not getting the same play.
Yeah, I mean, there are plenty of people being critical of the DNC, but I think that there's a lot of problems that are absent that we're not noticing because they don't exist, which is I think the candidates are being treated equally.
Yeah.
And in an unwieldy field of 20 people, maybe there's alternatives, but it's hard no matter what.
Yeah,
So
I don't have a better idea.
Yeah.
Got it. Well, I got a question for you in the aftermath of yesterday and then today. What do you guys think, having been on campaigns and experienced debates from that perspective, moves polling and public opinion the most? Is it what happens on these debate stages? Are they other moments on the campaign trail? Like what changes people's minds or wins you support? Is it other people dropping out of the field and then getting more of their supporters? Like what is kind of changing, who people go for?
It's cumulative. I mean, there's not like you can't really sort out the variables. I think debates are critical opportunities to introduce yourself to a lot of people who may not have seen you, to mix it up, to show you have the stuff that it takes to beat the Republican in the fall. The winnowing will happen later on. The things we'll be talking about in January will be probably a bunch of them will be completely surprising, novel issues that arose through reporting or gaffes or whatever bullshit. So, it's going to take a while.
And, I mean, I know we're not predicting, but...
You're not predicting. Don't ask a prediction.
No. In the time between now and the next debate...
I predict you're asking. Just kidding. Sorry.
If you don't make the debate, what happens to your campaign? If you don't make debate number 3?
Well, I mean, first, they bring out that kind of metal. It's kind of a metal cage, and then they strap you into that. And then right before they dip you into the lava, this kind of priest figure comes out, and he does take your heart out of your body. And what's crazy is you stay alive, and then he holds the heart up to Democratic voters, and then you're lowered into the lava, and then the heart catches fire, and that's how you know that you've been given over and that you're no longer part of the Democratic primary. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
No, I think that...
I just don't think it'll be able to, if you don't make the debates, no one's going to give you money. So you're going to end up having to drop out because you're not going to be able to raise money. That's my prediction.
Yeah, I think that's right. I also think that there are candidates who would rather bow out gracefully than kind of hang on. I don't know if that's Delaney, but it's certainly some of the more prominent senators and governors who I think sincerely wanted to take this chance but don't actually want to self-immolate to make a point.
Yeah.
So...
Okay, we got one final request from Elijah, who wants you guys to like the video again. Why aren't you doing it? Listen to Elijah.
What's going on, Elijah?
Sorry, Elijah.
What is going on?
What are we supposed to make of that? How are we supposed to feel?
The new people, please like our video. Please. Anyways.
I'm going to like it right now, Elijah.
All right. Now, on to the fun questions. Guys, let's talk about Group Thread.
Okay.
How do you guys like it? What's it like?
So, Group Thread.
Group Thread.
It is a brand new, innovative, revolutionary, crooked media format where we basically have a Slack channel that you can read in real time along with the debate. It has been actually a truly great way, I think, to talk about the debate as it's ongoing so that you can watch the debate but also follow along with our conversation. It's kind of a mini version of Twitter, sans Nazis. And and it's been... because when we've talked a lot about how do you kind of comment on a debate in real time. Twitter's one way to do it, but if you're doing a video or a mystery science theater thing, you can't really understand what's going on. So this has been the perfect balance, and it is so much fun.
I love Group Thread. I'm a huge fan.
We're huge fans.
It's you know what? It's just nice to be able to have that kind of mentality that you're just chatting. It's not a tweet. Doesn't have to be perfect. Doesn't have to be spelled correctly. You're just kind of going back and forth, road testing ideas, talking candid. I think that group thread has gotten us to be more honest about our actual opinions than almost anything else we did. We finally were, everyone wants to be nice. You don't want to be a dick.
Stop being
Personalities
polite.
came out.
Start getting real.
Yeah, start getting real.
Look, yes, I think you're, yes. But it's also just want to note that for the previous debates and ideally for the future debates, you'll also be able to kind of watch the debates streaming along with the group thread. That is ideal, hopefully. CNN did reach out to us preemptively to ask us to not include their live stream, even if we used ads, which I think was persnickety. And hopefully that is a decision we can reverse with them and with others in the future, because it was a great opportunity for a lot of people to watch a debate where the ratings did go down from the first debate to the second debate.
Yeah, a little FJ Uckerzay doesn't work at every network, so hopefully we can not get yelled at.
Yeah. I mean, just my opinion, I think it's a lot less anxiety-inducing than watching something on Twitter and in real time.
The Twitter,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, Twitter just moves too fast, too. It's like you can't keep up with it. I find myself reading the tweets, not the debates.
Right.
Watching the debate, yeah.
That doesn't happen on group thread. And
Plus
we
it's
got
a
Michael Barbaro to tweet us, so.
toxic. Twitter's a toxic environment that combines both self-expression and self-promotion, in which you're expected to both be completely authentic while also protecting yourself from saying the wrong thing, and the wrong thing is defined differently by virtually every single person. So there's that.
There's that.
There's that aspect.
Right. Lovett, can we talk about my very fun Saturday babysitting your dog?
Yes, Priyanka took care of Pundit for a day while I was at a wedding.
And it was great.
And she did a wonderful job. Pundit was there was a spring in her step that I think carried through all the way to Monday.
Wow.
Thank you for doing that.
She
Did you
is
have a good
being
day?
nicer to me now, too.
Well, look, we love dogs and dogs love us, but it's amazing how much more they love you when they discover you feed them. Mm-hmm. So that's a funny thing.
Where'd you take her? What'd you do?
Pundit and I had quite a day.
Fill us in.
Well, first we tried to walk back from Lovett's house. She wouldn't leave, so I had to carry her for at least a few blocks.
My girl.
She kept trying to take me back to your house. I was like, oh, no, we can't go in that direction. She met a couple of my friends. We went to get ice cream. We walked around. She made a lot of kids were like, or parents were like, can my kid pet your dog? And I was like, my dog, not my dog. But yeah, sure. And she was great. She was so nice, so sweet. Went on a lot of walks. We met my friend's 2 dogs, golden retriever, another bigger dog. Pundit was totally fine. She's a little scared, but totally fine.
Big dogs are scary sometimes.
Yes, Pundit contains multitudes. She is a little bit timid with dogs out in the world, though she does get eventually comfortable. However, in the office, she does have a real alpha streak. Joel's dog Iggy was here today, and Iggy and Pundit are convivial. They are friends.
Wow.
But Pundit does run at that little dog full speed and pounce.
Pundit is a people's dog, is what I would say.
She's the people's dog.
I wouldn't say a dog's dog.
People-powered Pundit.
This has got to be too boring for people probably at this
Fair
point.
enough.
No, I feel
all
like
this
they love
dog
it.
content.
Okay.
Pundit is in the room. Can we get a camera on Pundit? Improvise, yell. Just her butt. There it is. Guys, did we ever talk about the fact that Megan Rapinoe was in this office? Did we ever talk about this? In one of what was one of the best moments of my life, and I believe a truly dark moment in the life of one Emily Favreau. Megan Rapinoe picked up Pundit, said hello to Pundit, and then Emily's like, "This is Leo," and without missing a beat, Rapinoe just in a withering sentence, "Oh, Leo, not as famous as Pundit."
It was weird
Brutal.
watching your friend die in front of your eyes, but it nearly killed her.
And it was kind of like a ha 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 ha. Get on the phone with a public relations firm. Get Leo out there. Get that Q score up.
Get me Sunshine Sax.
No one's ever even heard of this fucking dog. What am I paying you for? My dog should be famous.
Anyways,
Happened.
what'd you guys think about the Bachelorette finale? We're asking the wrong. Favreau isn't
That
here.
stupid shit was on in my house. When that guy started singing the song, I was like, I'm out of here. I hate these people.
I am
Why do millions of people pretend that these people are there to find love and not find a future reality show to be on. It's embarrassing.
It's not a future reality TV show. They want Instagram deals,
Sure.
Tommy.
Cash.
The same thing
They want
all of us
cash.
want.
They want fame.
Can I ask you a question, Priyanka, about this?
Yes,
about this world of
please.
The Bachelor,
Please.
the Bachelor extended universe, if you will. People do understand that it's disgusting, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like it's a disgusting, evil kind of
I would say that's why
cruel.
people watch.
cruel, but right. But it's like it takes like the fundamental good aspects of humanity, right? Like finding someone and falling in love and exposing yourself and being vulnerable and learning about them as they learn about you and hopefully building a bond as you connect over deeper and deeper questions until you discover that you're meant to be together. It takes that idea and basically makes it evil.
Well, juxtaposes that
Exploits
with,
it for television?
Also then fucking your friend,
Right, and also then that.
which is nice.
But so, would you say that you watch it ironically, like, oh, this is so bad, or are you in?
Oh, I'm not like in necessarily. I kind of watch it as like a social thing. Like that's my friends get together on Monday, have a little wine, have a little snacks,
that
watch
host,
it.
Is he always like a jerk to these people?
Oh yes. Oh my God, he hates it. He's like, you're stupid, and I'm just here because they gave me a check, and I have no interest in your relationships at all.
Do you remember the movie? 2 points about this. One, do you remember the movie Stay Tuned with with Ritter, formerly of Three's Company? You don't. It came out probably before you were born.
Yeah.
But in this movie,
Well, I'm the Pete Buttigieg of this interaction.
Oh,
oh,
brutal.
please. Excuse me.
I'm
excuse
gonna
me.
be in my
Go
40s.
get your didgeridoo and we'll talk.
Didgeridoo. Oh,
He plays the didgeridoo.
does he really?
Yes.
Contains so
Been
many
his
talents.
fun fact so many times.
So,
actually.
in the movie Stay Tuned, the devil installs a satellite dish in their home, and they only get devil channels. And basically, the devil channels, basically the channels that show evil reality shows and evil competitions in whenever that movie came out, the early 90s, have become actual television.
92.
92. Stay
Like what?
tuned. Eugene Levy's in it. It's a classic. It's
a great movie.
Second point. The film The Hunger Games, meant to be a commentary on how awful it would be if children were competing to the death for sport to contain a dictator's hold on a system of government. In the theater, when I saw The Hunger Games, in which children are trying to kill each other, the movie has some of them being good children and some of them being bad children. But of course, they're all victims. They're all victims.
Mm-hmm.
But when I saw it, when one of the good kids, good hero kids, lived, and one of the bad kids, the evil children, got murdered, my theater applauded. And I realized in that moment, my theater wasn't watching a movie about a world in which there are Hunger Games. They were simply fans of the Capitol's Hunger Games. And I think about that whenever I hear that people I like watch The fucking Bachelor.
Oh.
Any other questions, Priyanka? Keep in mind there was a
Are there any
compliment buried
reality
in there.
shows that you enjoyed, Tommy?
Reality shows. I mean, look, I watched like a lot of seasons of Real World, Road Rules, The Challenge.
Those were good.
Those were fun.
I like there's the challenge where they had to do.
Yeah, it was like CT took steroids for 6 months and then just
Okay, I
like beat
don't-
up the whole house or whatever. From Boston.
I enjoy the what I consider to be the thinking person's
Oh,
reality
God.
show.
Buckle up.
All right,
What is it?
a Survivor,
Oh.
an Amazing Race.
Ew.
Ah,
Ugh.
The Amazing Race. You practically got Jules Verne in an air balloon, traveling around the world, sophisticated competition using your smarts.
Is
Do they hook
Queer
up
Eye
in a
a-
windmill? I'm
what?
out. I'm out.
Is Queer Eye a reality show?
Oh, kind of, yeah.
Right? Like this season, I think it's been great.
The first season of Survivor, the very first one,
guy's name?
Richard Hatch, and you think I'm not going to retain the information of a nudist gay criminal from the first season of Survivor? You bet I remember. Didn't pay the taxes, wins $1 million on live television, skips out on the taxes. That takes Trump chutzpah. Anyway, that first season, in that final showdown amongst the three of them, I would argue is one of the most exciting moments in reality TV and is the moment that launched everything else. It was insane. I remember running around my home screaming. It was so exciting. Uncontainable were my emotions.
37 Survivor seasons.
Wow.
Is that right?
Yeah,
Wow.
because they do it twice a year, I guess. What a world. What a world.
Jeez. Well.
Like the stream.
Oh, wait, no. Before we leave, if you care about our debate coverage, which you should, you can sign up to get our debate recap newsletters.
Oh, yeah.
At votesaveamerica.com/subscribe. You can read last night's recap, crooked.com/2020. You can...
There's got to be a way to clean that up a little bit.
I wasn't going to say anything, okay? And you can watch our group thread. You can come back to our YouTube. Go.crooked.com/group thread. It's not that hard. It's not that hard.
Just
to sum up, go.com/crooked/group thread.
No.
Go.crooked.com/group thread for the group thread.
Bingo.
Crooked.com/2020 for last night's newsletter. VoteSaveAmerica.com/subscribe for tomorrow's newsletter. Tonight's tomorrow.
You got it. It makes perfect sense.
Loving it.
Yep. It's worth it.
Is that it? We're out of stream?
End of stream.
End of stream.
End of stream.